UNTV News and Rescue.
Tonight on Y News, Senator Laila De Lima is determined to proceed with the Senate investigation on extrajudicial killings on Monday.
Government agencies are urged to support the resolution of drug dependency problems in the country.
The Philippine economy has improved by 7% in the second quarter of 2016. The Department of Tourism pushes the integration of terminal fees to airline tickets.
3 municipalities in Pampanga are placed under state of calamity due to imminent floods.
The Philippine Air Force recognizes 2016 Rio Olympic silver medalist Heidelin Diaz. Diaz calls for government support to Filipino athletes. Good evening, Philippines and the world. This is Y News.
UNTV News and Rescue Command Center. This is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
First in the news, Senator Laila De Lima affirms that the Senate investigation on extrajudicial killing cases of alleged drug suspects in the country will continue. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
Senator Laila De Lima stands firm that the Senate Committee on Justice will continue to conduct the investigation on extrajudicial cases in the country scheduled to happen next week. This despite the accusations of President Rodrigo Duterte against the senator.
Sumagi na rin po sa isipan ko na itigil ang investigasyon kapalit ng katahimikan sa aking buhay. Pero kapag ginawa ko po ito, ay parang tinalikuran ko na rin ang sarili kong pagkatao at itinatwa ang sarili kong mga paninindigan at paniniwala. Hindi na po ako ang tatayong kinatawan ng bayan sa Senado. Isang huwad na anyo ko na lamang ang tatayo dito. Para ko na rin pong binaon ang aking sariling pagkatao.
The senator admits she was hurt for all the things that's happening now and asked her critics to stop the character defamation against her. She also appeals not to implicate her relatives and supporters to the issue.
Kung ang pag-atake sa akin ay gagawin sa pamamagitan ng pag-atake rin sa mga dati kong kasama sa trabaho o maging sa aking sariling pamilya, sana ay huwag na ninyo silang idamay.
On the part of the administration, Malacanang says the president is just defending himself from the alleged previous accusations of De Lima. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Senate hearing today highlights the role of the Department of Health and other government agencies in solving drug dependency in the country. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA reports a total number more than 600,000 drug personalities who have surrendered since January this year. 9% of them are in need of confinement to drug rehabilitation facilities, while the rest has to undergo intervention programs. In the Senate hearing earlier, the problem of insufficient rehabilitation facilities by the Department of Health and in jails was highlighted.
Sa case po ng BGMP, considering that we are holding majority of our inmates are still detainees, so wala po kaming rehabilitation program na ano po talaga. Pero we are offering welfare and development activities for the inmates, for example, in coordinations with the DepEd.
Meanwhile, drug personalities who surrendered and were not given intervention were asked to return to their respective communities where they can receive treatment for their drug dependency. PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa says although he has always been bent on fighting the war against drugs, he has no choice but to hand over to the local government those who surrendered.
Lack of infrastructure, lack of facilities to cater to this surrenderos. So ang gawin yan is, yung ginagawa namin is pinapareport lang sa kanya-kanyang barangay, din yung mga barangay kapitan na mag-monitor sa kanila.
On the other hand, Senator Risa Hontiveros says drug dependency should be treated as a public health problem. She stresses drug problem will remain prevalent if dependency will not be addressed.
Ipuput into practice na po namin ngayong budget debates na kung ano yung department priorities ng DOH, kung ano po yung legislative agenda ko sa universal healthcare, pagsasalubungin namin at pagtutulungan po namin na mapondohan po harinawa ng Kongreso ang proposed budget ng department.
National Youth Commission Chair Isa Ziguera also shared in the hearing her proposed steps to help the youth.
Sana ba tayong mga youth centers for youth centers para doon tayo magpo-provide at magiging avenue itong mga youth centers na to para magkaroon tayo ng mga trainings, makikipag-partner nga tayo with DepEd about that.
Every government agency earlier has expressed cooperation in fighting the war against drugs, which is, by the way, the center of the Duterte administration since the campaign. For its part, the Senate is looking forward in knowing all sides and angles of the issue in order to address the problem through legislation. Joyce Balancio, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Regional directors of the National Capital Region, Bicol, and the Western Visayas region are doubling their efforts to meet the expected target of combating illegal drug operations within the period of 6 months. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
So mga dalawa o tatlo na medyo kailangan pa talagang sumikap.
Philippine National Police Chief, Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa has mentioned regions with poor performance in terms of campaign against illegal drugs in the country, namely Region 5 or Bicol Region, Region 6 or Western Visayas Region, and the National Capital Region. Consequently, the police chief has warned the regional directors in the said areas that they might be sacked from their position if they would not improve their performance. For their part, the regional directors accepted the challenge and promised to work even harder to intensify their anti-illegal drugs campaign.
Kailangan pa rin natin sigurong i-double time ang ating effort dyan since na according nga sa ating Pangulo yung lumalabas na data ngayon is around mga 3.7 million na yung data on the drug pushers and users all over the country.
May focus teams tayo na would run after yung mga high value targets natin. So meron po tayong timeline for that, meron allocations ng targets.
Albayalde and Gentiles admits that it is difficult to pin down the drug lords in their respective areas, so they need and ask for the support of the public.
Mahirap po makakuha ng direct evidence from them. But it is public knowledge na yun nga po, they are involved. Yun po ang malaking challenge po.
In-explain nga namin, kapag kinatok naman yung bahay, it's just a matter of parang information, kasama na yung information dissemination natin doon. Not necessarily, pag kinatok kasi yung bahay natin, may involved na drug pusher o user doon sa bahay na yun.
Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue Camp Krame.
The Acting General of the PNP's Internal Affairs Service, or IAS, assures a fair and unbiased investigation of drug-related killings during police operations. This after Senators Grace Poe and Panfilo Lacson said a civilian should sit as Inspector General. Acting Deputy Inspector General Leo Angelo says he agrees with the senators, but since the agency has yet to assign the head of office, he was ordered by the Chief PNP to act as the head of the IAS. The IAS Inspector General is supposed to be a civilian mandated to investigate the mistakes committed within the ranks of the police. Duterte assures that although uniformed, he will not take the side of erring policemen who will be found in their motu proprio investigation to be involved in the killings of drug personalities during legitimate police operations.
I follow my orders from the Chief of the Philippine National Police. Yesterday, he said that as Acting Deputy Inspector General, I will perform the functions of the Inspector General of the Internal Affairs Service, and I will do it until I am relieved of this duty.
In other news, long and unnecessary queues in the airport are expected to be lessened once the memorandum of agreement between the Department of Tourism and airline companies is signed and approved. Mon Hokson tells us why.
Major airline companies have agreed to the integration of the terminal fee into departing passengers' airline ticket payments. This transpired during the consultation meeting attended by officials of the Civil Aviation Authority and airline executives. Under the plan, the domestic passenger service charge, commonly known as terminal fee, will be collected by the airlines as part of ticket payment. This is pursuant to the agenda of President Rodrigo Duterte to fast-track the processes and systems in the government.
Ang kagandahan po nito, kapag na-integrate na natin yung terminal fee sa ticket na binabayaran ng ating mga pasahero, mababawasan na po yung unnecessary queuing and delays kapag tayo ay pumupunta sa airport.
The Tourism Department is now coordinating with the private sector for the said plan. The DOT also encourages the local air carriers and CAAP board to agree with the terms and conditions in the Memorandum of Agreement.
Most probably and hopefully by October. So once na ma-sign po itong MOA, and our target is to do it by September. So bibilang lamang po tayo ng 30 araw at pagkatapos po nun ay gagawin na yung IRR at pwede na po natin siyang implement.
Local carriers include Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific, Sea Air, Skyjet, Air One, and Air Asia. There are 81 cab terminals but only a few implement the integration of terminal fee in the plane tickets. Once the MOA is approved, it will be fully implemented in all the airports in the country. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A more secured and state-of-the-art e-passport system will soon be available for travelers and migrant workers. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
In 2009, the Department of Foreign Affairs launched the first design of the e-passport. After 7 years, it is now modified with its latest design, set to be launched this week. DFA spokesperson Asik Charles Jose says they have started printing the first batch of the new e-passports on Monday, August 15, in cooperation with the APO Production Office. Various images printed in the latest e-passport include tourist attractions from Luzon to Mindanao. It also has security features in each page, making it very difficult to be forged or falsified. The new e-passport has a state-of-the-art invisible ultraviolet fluorescent ink, thread, and with attached microchip where the holder's biometric data is stored. This is considered as the latest technology, and the Philippines is the first to use it as compared with other countries.
The passport will always be genuine, no? Yung taong nag-apply, sila yung nag-attempt na to get a second passport under a different name. Pero find out yan kasi nga dun sa biometrics.
The cost of the passport remains at 950 pesos for regular processing and 1,200 for express service, which can be claimed after 5 to 7 days. DFA Asik Charles Jose clarified that the passport validity of up to 10 years has not yet taken effect. The Congress has to amend the Philippine Passport Act of 1996 first before it can be done. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Foreign Affairs.
The documentary 51st Days that reports the accomplishment of President Rodrigo Duterte in his first 50 days in office was aired today. Among his accomplishments were the establishment of a one-stop shop at the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, Malacanang of the South or Panakan, termination of the end-of-contract system, peace talks hosting the Miss Universe pageant next year, and the increase in allowance of Olympians, among others. Consequently, the Mula sa Masa para sa Masa tabloid of the Duterte administration has also been launched. It is a tabloid version of the President's TV program Gikan sa Masa para sa Masa, which started when he was still the mayor of Davao City. Presidential Communications Office Secretary Martin Andanar says the tabloid will be published bi-monthly with 5,000 copies distributed to the public free of charge. The Philippine economy rose 7% in the second quarter of 2016. Rosa Licos will tell us why.
Compared to the 5.9% economic growth for the second quarter of 2015, the gross domestic product or GDP for the second quarter of 2016 rose to 7% based on the report of Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA. The Philippines has the fastest growing economy in Asia. Second is China, which has 6.7%. Third is Vietnam, and next are Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand.
The previous administration gave us a strong and stable economy that we can build on further by maintaining the sound macroeconomic, fiscal, and monetary policies already in place.
According to Socio-Economic Planning Secretary and Economic Development Authority Director General Ernesto Pernia, this growth is driven by the strong performance of the services and industry sector and the increase in investments and public spending. However, the performance of agriculture remains dismal because of the effects of the El Nino. Meanwhile, there is still a risk of seeing a lower growth rate in the second half of the year because of the post-election season and the La Nina. Because of this, Pernia says it is important for the Duterte administration to sustain the macroeconomic policy so that the business and consumer confidence will remain strong.
The smooth transition of power and assurance of macroeconomic policy consistency and continuity by the new administration will likely keep business and consumer confidence strong to meet the full-year target.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The House Committee on Appropriations will also have to further study the allocated budget for the salary increase of policemen and soldiers, as well as the assistance program of the Department of Social Welfare and Development under the proposed 2017 national budget. Mo Nocson will tell us why.
The lower house will begin deliberations on the 3.35 trillion peso 2017 proposed national budget of the Duterte administration. The House Committee on Appropriations Chairman Carlo Nograles assures a thorough study of the proposed budget for agencies and programs of the administration.
Then we will do these budget hearings to ensure na hindi lang no pork, dapat no fat din ang budget.
The committee will look into the welfare assistance given by the Department of Social Welfare and Development and also to the budget allocated for the policemen and soldiers' proposed salary increase.
Ang watch out natin sa pag-increase ng salaries, we have to take into consideration yung actuarial computations ng pension funds nila. We don't want to come into a situation where mabankrupt natin ang mga pension funds.
Under the 2017 proposed national budget, about 39.5 billion pesos is allocated to miscellaneous personal benefits fund for payment of compensation adjustment, which includes the salary increase of policemen and soldiers. The increase in salary of uniformed personnel was endorsed by President Rodrigo Duterte, who promised to push for its accomplishment while he is in power. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue.
Next in Y News. Philippine Coastguard has a new addition to its fleet.
Laguna Lake is now troubled by heavy metal contamination and siltation.
And 3 towns in Pampanga are under state of calamity due to massive floods.
Y News will be right back. The Philippine Coast Guard reports a close encounter with the Chinese Coast Guard in the West Philippine Sea. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
This photograph shows a close encounter between the patrol vessel of the Philippine Coastguard and the larger vessel of the Chinese Coast Guard in the West Philippine Sea. The PCG says it happened a few weeks ago, 70 to 100 nautical miles from Subic. No confrontation or any untoward incident happened. The PCG was on its regular patrol in the region when the encounter took place.
We have been patrolling the area, assisting our fishermen.
It can be recalled that in the past, the Chinese Coast Guard have been driving away our fishermen in the West Philippine Sea. Coast Guard Chief Rear Admiral William Melad says they are regularly patrolling the West Philippine Sea and part of the job is to assist Filipino fishermen in the area.
It is our intention to protect them and to allow them to be able to fish again within the declared traditional fishing ground in Bao de Masinloc.
According to the Coast Guard Chief, after the arbitral tribunal came out with its ruling, it is now clear that the contested area is part of the country's exclusive economic zone, and so Filipino fishermen should not be prohibited from fishing in the area.
Normal naman yan even in the past, but it is I believe now the policy that we should it is part of our exclusive economic zone. We could go there anytime we want to go.
Meanwhile, the new multi-role response vessel, one of ship's 10 that the government acquired from Japan, was turned over today. The 44-meter multi-role response vessel named BRP Tubataha will be used for search and rescue operations, marine environmental protection, and for patrolling the West Philippine Sea. The second vessel will arrive before the end of the year, while next 4 will arrive next year and last 4 in 2018. The Coast Guard is also planning to procure 2 large vessels from Japan. Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Bureau of Customs reports of its recent confiscation of 10 high-powered firearms at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The high-powered firearms were placed inside a balikbayan box. The box, which was confiscated 2 weeks ago, was named under a certain Maiko Claridad from the U.S. The recipient of the box was a certain Leo Mendieta of Bacolod City. Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faldon says the seized firearms were turned over to the police for investigation. The incident happened months after the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act was enacted, wherein the tax exemption ceiling for balikbayan boxes of OFWs was increased. The incident prompted the BOC to impose stringent measures of inspections on all balikbayan boxes.
I'm warning you, do not do that because we're going to get you. Pabayaan yung ating OFW to enjoy their privilege. Ito na nga yung tulong natin sa kanila, tapos pinasukan nyo kagad ng kalokohan niya.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has dismissed the tax evasion charges filed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue against Philrem and 2 of its officials, Salud and Michael Bautista. DOJ says the filing of charges was done in haste without giving Philrem the opportunity to explain its side. The records of the case show that Philrem was charged with tax evasion just 2 days after receiving the letter of authority from the BIR. Therefore, the failure to present its books for assessment by the BIR could not be imputed on the remittance company. The Justice Department further says the intent to evade tax on the part of Philrem is negated by the fact that it was consistent in paying the 12% value-added tax from 2010 to the present. The remittance company was dragged into a controversy after it was linked to the laundering of $81 million stolen from the Bangladesh Central Bank. The Laguna Lake Development Authority is now facing another problem aside from the increased number of fish pens and fish cages. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Laguna Lake is now shallower than it was decades ago. Laguna Lake Development Authority General Manager Neric Acosta says sediments from 11 major rivers around the lake has left only 1/4 of its original depth.
ang laki ng siltation problem niya, no? Ang problema ng erosion. Talagang kaya ang burak po nakakasama talaga sa buong ecosystem. Nagiging mababaw ang lake, mga 2.5 to 3 meters na lang average na lalim. Dati-rati sa 1980s, 10 to 12 meters.
Based on a study conducted by the LLDA, the lake contains high level of heavy metals like mercury and lead. Acosta says around 50 to 60% of fish supply in Metro Manila and nearby provinces comes from the lake.
May heavy metals na nadidetect, no? Mercury, lead, but they still are within safe. Ang matatawag pa rin nating safe, pero may babala na, no? May warning na kapag pinabayaan natin to, kasi ang tinatawag niyan bioaccumulation. Nag-accumulate kasi ang heavy metals na magpe-persist yan. Talagang tatagal yan sa isda, sa tubig, sa hangin, at sa mismong tao.
At present, the knife fish, which started to become a problem in 2012, can still be found in the lake. If a knife fish weighs at least 1 kilo, it means it has probably fed on about 7 to 8 kilos of other fish like silver perch.
Meron tayong harvesting talaga. Kasama na din ng DSWD kasi yung 4-piece, mismo ang mga tao na rin ang nagtatanggal ng mga itlog ng mga knife fish na nakadikit dun sa mga kawakawayan na nasa mga fish pens or fish cages.
Laguna Lake's rehabilitation plan will be announced this month. Pray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Environment-friendly cities in the Philippines receive recognition from the Worldwide Fund for Nature or WWF. Yoshiko Sata will tell us why.
Several cities in the Philippines received trophies for participating in the Earth Hour City Challenge of the Worldwide Fund for Nature or WWF, which ran from 2015 to 2016. The challenge aims to highlight, recognize, and support city governments that are making long-term efforts to combat climate change. Out of the 7 participating cities, Santa Rosa in Laguna has been proclaimed as the Philippine Earth Hour National Capital. The city's initiatives include using solar-powered street lighting and processing of coconut husks and water hyacinth in their composting facility designed to minimize landfill waste. Placing second is the city of San Carlos in Negros Occidental, which has positioned itself as the emerging renewable energy hub of Asia for hosting and supporting the establishment of 2 solar parks, biomass power plant, and bioethanol plant, which produces 125,000 liters of biodiesel per day. All these produce a total of 130 megawatts power. Makati City placed third for its initiatives like developing a center to provide barangay officials with knowledge and skills in designing eco-friendly projects. Cagayan de Oro, Naga, Parañaque, and Quezon City were also recognized during the awarding ceremony for participating in the challenge. For its part, WWF Philippines encourages other cities in the country to participate in the next Earth Hour City Challenge in 2018 as they contribute to climate change and rapid development.
I think many of our cities can qualify based on the current criteria that the international jury has in terms of Earth Our City Challenge. It's just a matter of whether they are willing to rise to the challenge and express their intent to join.
The following are the criteria for judging set by the international jury commissioned by WWF. They are looking for cities that are moving towards sustainable economy, taking ambitious and strategic actions to meet commitments, integrating actions into coherent strategies for sustainability, innovation and thinking outside the box, and significant leadership and credibility with respect to local context. Yoshiko Sata, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
3 towns in Pampanga have been placed under a state of calamity. Nina Arnilio will tell us why.
The weather condition in Pampanga is now starting to improve. Despite this, many towns are still inundated due to days of continued rainfall brought about by the southwest monsoon. This UNTV drone shot shows that San Fernando, Pampanga remains flooded, which is also due to the flooding of fish pens. Because of this, San Fernando City, as well as the towns of Macabebe and Santo Tomas, have been placed under a state of calamity.
We have declared Macabebe in under state of calamity. Kasi po halos 70% ng aming mga barangays are already flooded, no? Kasabay po ng pag-high tide.
In some parts of Santo Tomas, the local government continues to monitor the tail dike. Sandbags and water pumps have been placed there as it nears its spilling point. The mayor of the town says they are thoroughly monitoring parts of the dike that might soon be damaged.
Ito yung isa sa mga ating solusyon pang kasalukuyan. Pinapump out po namin ng tubig sa loob ng tail dike papunta po dito sa Gogo River. Iniiwasan po natin mag-overflow ang ating tail dike para maging masiguro natin na stable po ang ating tail dike.
Based on the PDRRMO's data, almost 70,000 families are affected by the floods in the province. More than 5,000 individuals are currently in evacuation centers. Damage to agriculture is estimated at more than 20 million pesos. Meanwhile, the DTI has inspected earlier some markets in areas affected by severe flooding. Price freeze on necessities in areas under a state of calamity has been automatically implemented. The DTI inspected if the sellers followed the correct pricing of goods and if there is enough supply. The DTI has caught earlier a supermarket in Malolos, Bulacan that did not follow the suggested retail price and does not have a price tag on its products. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
In other news, UNTV Serbisyong Kasangbahay puts a smile on the faces of landslide victims in Baguio City and a 5-year-old boy whose livelihood is garbage collection. June Soria will tell us why.
On Monday, a landslide occurred at Purok 3, Barangay Gisad, Sorong in Baguio City. 5 families, equivalent to 27 individuals, lost their homes and took temporary shelter among relatives and neighbors. Upon hearing about the incident, the program Serbisyong Kasangbahay, together with members Church of God International or MCGI, immediately extended assistance to the victims.
Gusto ko pong magpasalamat sa nangunguna po kay Brother Daniel Rason at kay Brother Eli Soriano po. Malaking tulong na po yung pinamahagi nyo sa amin. Hindi po namin maibabalik ito sa pamamaraan na lang po sa dasal na bahala na po ang Diyos na magbalik sa inyo.
Kayo lang ang kauna-unahan na media with the staff of Brother Eli na tumulong sa amin. So, ako sinasabi ko, in my 9 years na nakaupong barangay captain, ngayon lang ako nadama ng ganitong tulong.
Meanwhile, Serbisyong Kasangbahay also extended its assistance in cooperation with the Rotary Club to a 5-year-old boy of Caloocan City, who instead of playing with other children, Toy prefers to help his grandmother in garbage collecting. His father has passed away, while his mother left him when he was still an infant. He grew up under the care of his grandmother along with his siblings, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Nakakatuwa ho itong bata na ito dahil masayahin din at kaya positive siya kahit na medyo mahirap ang kanilang kalagayan. Ngayon po sa awa ng Diyos, sa pakipagtulungan naman ng Rotary Club, lalo na po ni Eren Tumali na co-host natin noong araw po na yan na ating i-feature at pinakilala sa inyo si Toy, nakapag-abot naman tayo ng tulong sa kanila.
Kuya Daniel's program wishes to give better source of income for Toy's family through the livelihood showcase. A buffet was also prepared for his family through the gesture of Wilson Lee Flores of Kamuning Bakery. Toy and his family were overwhelmed and thanked the program for the gifts given to them. Jun Suriao for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
The southwest monsoon still affects western section of northern and central Luzon. Rosalie Cos is at the UNTV News and Rescue Weather Center to tell us why. Rosalie, has the weather condition already improved?
Good evening, Jego. Yes, the weather has improved, but the southwest monsoon still affects the western part of the central and northern Luzon, which will bring rains over these areas.
Okay, please tell us the latest weather update. Take it away.
Thank you, Diego. Cloudy to cloudy skies with light to moderate rains will be experienced over Ilocos Region, Cordillera Administrative Region, and the provinces of Zambales and Bataan. The rest of the country and Metro Manila will have isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, strong to gale force southwesterly winds is expected to affect the western and northern seaboard of northern Luzon. Small sea crafts are advised not to venture out into the sea, while big sea vessels are alerted against big waves. Tomorrow's forecast says temperature in Metro Manila may reach up to 32 degrees Celsius, Tuguegarao at 32 degrees Celsius, Baguio City at 16 to 21 degrees Celsius, and Puerto Princesa at 33 degrees Celsius. In Visayas, Metro Cebu may have temperature of up to 33 degrees Celsius, Iloilo and Bacolod City at 32 degrees Celsius, and Tacloban City at 33 degrees Celsius. In Mindanao, Metro Davao may have temperature of up to 34 degrees Celsius, Cagayan de Oro City at 35 degrees Celsius, Valencia City at 29 degrees Celsius, and Zamboanga City at 33 degrees Celsius. The State Weather Bureau says moderate to heavy rains will trigger flash floods and strong winds. So keep safe, everyone, but lean on and trust in the Almighty. Before I turn you over to the studio, let me first tell you a trivia about tornado. Many Manileños were caught off guard after witnessing a tornado tore through parts of their city last Sunday. But how does a tornado form? According to Pag-asa, a tornado usually forms where there is a high concentration of low thunderstorm clouds that interact with ground surface. It then forms into a wind current in funnel shape. Tornadoes usually originate over a flat surface. The tornado that hit Manila started to form at the port area and was triggered by the southwest monsoon. It moved over land where it encountered rugged terrain and barriers, which then causes it to dissolve. Although tornadoes are not common in the Philippines, it is better to learn from the safety tips in case another one occurs. If you're inside a building or a house, go to a closet, interior bathroom, or even a small hallway. If you're driving, pick an escape route that takes you 90 degrees from the storm's path. Remember to always plan ahead and learn about how tornadoes occur. That's all for our trivia. Back to studio.
Thank you for that report, Rosalie Cos from the UNTV News and Rescue Weather Center. Coming up, President Rodrigo Duterte expresses gratitude to the King of Saudi Arabia for extending help to stranded Filipino workers.
The Philippine Air Force accords 2016 Rio Olympic silver medalist Heidelin Diaz. Meanwhile, Diaz calls for government support to Filipino athletes.
Giant airship Airlander 10 completes its maiden trip in London.
More from Y News after this break. Venezuelan authorities confiscate thousands of weapons across the country. Meanwhile, Western Australia Premier offers to house stranded asylum seekers. Nunez will tell us why.
In Australia, the Premier of Western Australia has offered to accept refugees from Australian-funded asylum seeker detention centres on Wednesday, amid growing concern about conditions at the camps. Western Australia Premier Colin Burnett has said his state government would accommodate a number of refugees.
Particularly for families, as long as they don't present a security or safety risk. I do welcome them being in Australia. And the one thing I find unacceptable is children in detention.
Under Australian law, anyone intercepted trying to reach the country by boat is sent for processing to camps on the tiny Pacific island of Nauru or to Manus Island of Papua New Guinea. In Turkey, Prime Minister Binali Yildirim said on Wednesday a total of 40,029 people have been detained in investigations related to last month's failed coup, and around half of those have been formally arrested. The Prime Minister added that 20,355 people have been formally arrested in relation to the failed July 15 putsch, which Turkey blames on followers of the US-based cleric Fethullah Gulen. Yildirim also said that 79,900 people had been removed from public duty in post-coup purges of the military, police, civil service, and judiciary. He said 4,262 companies and institutions with links to Gulen have been shut. Gulen, who has lived in self-imposed exile in Pennsylvania since 1999, has denied the charge and condemned the coup. In Venezuela, authorities destroys almost 2,000 weapons that had been seized by different security forces across the country, where easy access to arms, police participation in crime, and high levels of impunity have allowed delinquency to flourish. Justice Minister Nestor Reverol says citizen participation was very important. Reverol adds that this disarmament program prevents these types of weapons from getting back into the hands of criminals. So far this year, the government has disabled 17,686 firearms, and since 2013, they have removed more than 406,000 firearms from circulation. The violence-racked nation remains one of the world's most dangerous. According to the United Nations, only Honduras has a worse murder rate than Venezuela. Ann Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte signifies his heartfelt gratitude to the King of Saudi Arabia for the assistance that his government is rendering to the stranded Filipino workers. Mabel Razon will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte expressed his gratitude to King Salman of Saudi Arabia for the assistance that the Saudi Arabian government extends to stranded Filipino workers in the country. Bellew said the king agreed to shoulder the airfare expenses of those who want to return home to the Philippines.
Magbabayad sa inyo ang hari mismo. Kaya si Presidente Duterte sinadalang sulat sa akin para sa hari. At doon sa sulat, pinapasalamatan niya yung hari nila.
Bellew said President Duterte wants to personally thank the king once he visits Saudi Arabia.
Nasa hari ng Saudi kung kailan niya padala yung imbitasyon. Dahil doon sa sulat ng ating Pangulo, sinabi niya na gusto niya pumunta personal para pasalamatan yung hari ng Saudi. Ganun kayo kamahal.
Secretary Bellew said the process of repatriation has been finalized in a meeting with his counterpart in the Ministry of Labor in Saudi Arabia.
Mag-coordinate yung ating mga tao sa Ministry of Labor natin at saka yung kanila at magtulungan sila para matulungan yung ating mga manggagawa.
Aside from airfare, the king also ordered to waive the penalties for all expired passports and visa. He also offered employment opportunities to Filipino workers who wish to stay in the country. Over 400 stranded OFWs have signified their intention to come home, while others prefer to stay and be offered another employment with other companies. Meanwhile, Secretary Bellew has arrived in Jeddah to also visit 17 camps of stranded OFWs before he returns to the Philippines tomorrow. Mabel Razon, UNTV News and Rescue, Dammam, Saudi Arabia.
Meanwhile, motorists are experiencing moderate to heavy traffic in major areas along EDSA. Aiko Miguel is at PhilAm in EDSA to tell us why live. Go ahead, Aiko.
Yes, Diego, good evening. It's almost 9 in the evening and rain showers are still experienced in different parts of Metro Manila. And motorists in major roads along EDSA are experiencing moderate to heavy traffic. Motorists experience moderate to heavy traffic along the northbound in EDSA, Sergeant Esguerra, Scout Albano, and Scout Borromeo. Along southbound, traffic is moderate to heavy in Roses Avenue, Roosevelt Avenue, Dr. Garcia Sr., Scout Chuatoco, G. Araneta Avenue, Santo Domingo, and Biak na Bato. Traffic is also moderate to heavy in Canlaon and Mayon. Along the northbound, traffic is light in Elliptical Road, Agham Road, and Bantayog Road. Even in South Magbanwa, Roses Avenue, Roosevelt Avenue, Dr. Garcia Sr., Speaker Perez, Apo Avenue, Canlaon, and Mayon. Traffic is still light on both sides of Cordillera and Bituazon. Light to moderate traffic is experienced along the northbound in Scout Reyes and Banawe. Traffic is moderate along southbound in Scout Santiago and Timog. Meanwhile, in EDSA Muñoz going to Balintawak Market, traffic is light to moderate. Going to North Avenue, traffic is moderate. In EDSA Guadalupe, from Orense to Ayala, there is heavy traffic. From Guadalupe to Shaw, traffic is also heavy. In Sucat Road, Parañaque City, going to Sucat Highway, the traffic situation is moderate. And going to Baclaran, traffic situation is light. In Letre Malabon, going to C4 Nabotas, light traffic is experienced. And going to Monumento, light traffic is also experienced. Diego, the public is still advised to bring umbrellas and raincoats to stay dry and be safe from the continuous rainfall brought about by the southwest monsoon. And that is the latest traffic update. Diego.
Thank you for that report. Aiko Miguel reporting live from EDSA PhilAm.
The manufacturer of the world's largest airship is proud of a recent flight made by the aircraft. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
The world's largest airship, Airlander 10, completed its maiden trip on Wednesday at London's Cardington Airfield after a postponement due to technical concerns on Sunday. This largely anticipated flight lasted for about half an hour. The airship completed a series of flight maneuvers and landed safely. Stephen McGlennon, the CEO of the airship's manufacturer Hybrid Air Vehicles, is a mixture of technologies.
It's a hybrid aircraft. It's a mixture of airplane technology, airship technology, and helicopter technology. So it's a mixture, so we call it a hybrid.
The CEO says a Chinese company also participated in the technical design of the aircraft.
And the engines come from a company that is now owned by a large Chinese company. And we're also talking to some of the major Chinese technological companies who have a focus in aerospace, trying to find ways in which we can bring this technology into China and across markets where Chinese companies have many interests.
McGlenn added there will be 100 such aircraft flying across the world in 5 years for recreation, cargo transport, and disaster relief. Different from other airplanes, the aircraft doesn't need a runway to take off, which means it can land on water, ice, or even desert, and it can travel up to 100 kilometers per hour. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Olympic silver medalist Heidelin Diaz is promoted to Philippine Air Force Airwoman First Class. During the event, Diaz called on the government to provide for the needs of Filipino athletes. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
2016 Rio Olympic silver medalist weightlifter Heidelin Diaz was honored today by the Philippine Air Force. Diaz is an enlisted personnel of the Philippine Air Force. She was recruited by the PAF sometime in 2013. Even then, she was given a military merit medal for her contribution in the planning and execution of significant PAF events, and a Presidential Citation Unit badge for participating in numerous nation-building and development activities. Commanding General Edgar Falorina led the awarding of promotion and plaque of appreciation to Diaz. A replica of the Rio Olympics silver medal was turned over in a ceremony. From being an airwoman second class, Heidelin was promoted to airwoman first class, equivalent to a corporal of the Philippine Army.
This hero's welcome is meant to pay tribute and our thanksgiving to the Almighty Father for the blessing of skilled men and women like our honorees.
Olympic weightlifter Nestor Colonia, an airman second class, was also commended by the Air Force. Meanwhile, Diaz details the problems they have encountered and that government should pay attention to.
Yung gym namin, year 1980s pa ata yun, hindi pa napalitan. Yung plates namin, 2005 pa binigay sa amin. So, 10 years na yun nandun.
Diaz believes that there should be a reform in the allowance.
Yung pinagdaanan namin, kasi after nito, yung allowance namin, mas mataas pa ang allowance ng SEA Games kesa allowance ng Olympian.
Heidelin has a message to her fellow athletes.
Parte yan ng buhay, parte yan ng journey mo. Kasi kung talagang gusto mo yung pangarap mo, hindi ka mag-give up. Lalaban at lalaban ka hanggang sa manalo ka.
Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
International celebrity chefs turn leftovers from the Olympic Village into meals for Rio de Janeiro's homeless. Marge Navarro tells us why.
As caterers and nutritionists engineer a special diet for 18,000 athletes, officials and staff of Rio's Olympic Village, dozens of chefs are taking on another feat, turning the excess food from the complex into nightly meals for the host city's homeless. Renowned Italian chef Massimo Bottura has teamed up with David Hertz from Brazil and some other 40 colleagues from around the world in the initiative Refettorio Gastromotiva, which aims to serve some 70 diners each day to those in need. Bottura explains the fine-tunings of the herbs he had chosen and that for him, this is no ordinary soup kitchen. He says creativity and experience is key to create a refined menu from surprise ingredients each day. Bottura and Hertz say they would like to see the initiative replicated in every city hosting the Olympics in the future. They hope it will become a movement not only to fight food waste and feed the hungry, but also to provide vocational training for future cooks, bakers, and waiters. In Brazil, hunger dropped to under 5% of the population in 2015 from almost 15% in 1990, according to the United Nations. Yet in the country of 208 million people, that means millions still don't have enough food. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news, August 18, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.